Hello, we are here at Echo Environmental. This is where Fujitsu sends our electronic recycling, our electronic waste. We're here with Michael. He's going to answer a few questions and give us a tour later.
Sure.
All right. Michael, the first question I have is pretty simple. What are some common items that you recycle here?
A lot of the most common items that come in are consumer electronics that tend to be, laptops, desktops, cell phones, what they call consumer premise equipment from your cable companies when you have your set-top boxes and routers and modems and things of that nature. Those all tend to be the most common items that we receive, yes.
And is there an item that people wouldn't think is recyclable but is? Is there anything in particular?
One of the things that's kind of on the outskirts of what we do a little bit that is kind of a new thing and a lot of people may not realize is solar panels. Solar panels do have the ability to be recycled and have metals recovered and so on and so forth where they're not landfilled. So that's kind of a new thing.
Okay. How much time does it take to recycle mixed material products?
So in many cases, if we're talking specifically about that now, a lot of it just depends on what other materials are in-house and what's been set up through that for that particular process to run for a particular day. But in essence, when you got a shipment that comes in of mixed materials, it's probably a couple, 2-3 days to go through a sort process and then the final shredding for downstream. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And how do you educate your customers on recycling? Do you provide any materials or any training ever?
Yes, I do talk directly with customers about how we recycle. We do provide some information. Of course, our website's very detailed as far as the types of materials that we recycle and as far as how that material gets recycled. We do provide a lot of sustainability efforts throughout the company and with our clients to provide them with information on best ways to even handle or to package materials as well.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And do you have a strange fact about recycling that people might not know?
A strange fact. Well, one of the things that I don't think a lot of people realize is that batteries tend to be in just about everything these days. And you can't just shred electronics through a shredder with the batteries in them, so they actually have to go through a recovery process. And so a lot of those things that it could be small button cells, it can be cell phones that have the larger lithium ion batteries. They all have to go through a process where those batteries are recovered by hand and then packaged properly according to DOT standards so that they can be recycled at our downstream recycler for batteries. So this is the receiving area. When they are receiving material, all of the pallets of material that we receive come in, are weighed on this particular scale, and then received into the system. Now the very interesting thing here is that we've already discussed with the customer about what is coming in, provided an order number, so when that shipment comes in, the labels have the order number on them so that we can then assign that when it first comes in. We know exactly what we're receiving and we can start to track that. Each singular pallet or Gaylord box that comes in will have a barcoded tracking number as well as information on the weight of that particular pallet coming in. That allows us then to track that material all the way through the system and know exactly where each material ended up going in the downstream. All that needs to go through a sort process, and that's what happens in this particular area. So we'll sort out, like Mark mentioned, we'll sort out aluminums, different types of aluminums, cabling, different devices. If we see batteries, those get sorted out. And that material all gets sorted in their own boxes. Now, I mentioned that barcode, right? So each one of those sorted out materials from each customer, that barcode gets slapped onto the downstream material with a secondary code that allows us to then track each customer's material through that process to all the way to the downstream. So, and then each sorted out material then will get weighed and provide that final barcode then to our downstream. So this is one of our main process lines. A lot of your consumer premise equipment, modems, desktops, all types of different equipment like that can go through this process where our teams behind me can actually separate by hand circuit boards and certain metals to go through that particular final process. And then the shells of a lot of the equipment, in this particular case, the set-top boxes, will go up the actual shred line and be shredded and separated out. So there's a magnetic separator on the back end that pulls all the steel off, and then all that circuit board material then can be accumulated to go to our downstream primary smelter. So an interesting thing here is that some of our customers, especially with so many of these particular consumer premise equipment devices, specifically, set-top boxes, they'll require an accounting of those particular devices coming in, making sure that they go through the process and they can manage that those devices have been destroyed. One of the ways we're able to do that is through this particular setup you see behind me, which is an optical scanner that allows us to just place different set-top box on it. It will scan the device and read the serial number on these particular devices and then relay that information to the customer, whether it's through a program or through like an Excel spreadsheet, depending on who the customer is. And what's really cool about this setup here is it doesn't matter how many makes or models you put on there, it's going to automatically sort those for you, very much like you see at an Amazon facility when packages are running and it's sorting out by zip code. It's going to sort out by make and model, and you'll get to see that process right over here. This is where our people are actually sorting out batteries and packaging them properly and stored here until they can be shipped to our final downstream. This is where all the batteries and universal waste ends up temporarily. Packaging materials and plastics that are being baled. We have a baler over here to my right, but you can see some of the baled cardboard material that will go to its, paper recycling, cardboard recycling. We've gone through a process of sorting out solar panels that are coming in for recycling, and we're always looking for reuse, right? And so we're checking out the solar panel to make sure there's no damage to the glass, no hot spots or micro cracking, no damage to the panel if possible, or the junction box. Then we are sorting those out by make and model, and we are accumulating those for downstream resale. Main computer units that are used inside of automobiles that will actually have this very large heat sink around it, but inside is a nice circuit board. And so they'll go through a process of capturing the cast aluminum and the circuit board. That usually tends to be done by hand. And it's a very quick process when you have the right tools in your setup to do a large number of them. So hard drives come into this particular room in order to be wiped. So the data, whether it's a customer's IT data or whether it's the hard drives out of these set-top boxes, you want to make sure that any data goes through a destruction process. And that is done back here, where the drives are entered into each one of these systems, where the system goes through a particular software to wipe each and every sector so that it can be reused, but have no data left on that particular device. The really cool thing about all these setups that you see back here is they're all created from used equipment. So that's pretty much it, guys.